It Chapter 2 5 Flaws the Critics Can't Ignore. It's been more than a month since It Chapter 2's worldwide screening, and it has gained the audience's nod with a $387.7 million gross, and still counting. As for its fate in the hands of the critics, the sequel with a current 63% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes has its strengths, but the critics can't ignore these 5 flaws. Number 5. Too lengthy running time. Based on Stephen King's 1986 novel with 1,138 pages, the film adaptation came in 2 installments, 2017's It and the 2019 sequel, It Chapter 2. Set in 1989, Chapter 1 sees the kids of the Losers Club subdue the despicable clown without managing to kill it.
Yeah, the Losers Club.
Chapter 2, which transpires in 2016, revisits the same kids as troubled adults who reluctantly return to Derry, Maine to eliminate Pennywise. Whereas the original movie solely zooms in on the horrors of a troubled childhood, the sequel reintroduces all 7 main characters, updates the audience on their lives over the past 27 years, reunites the Losers Club members, and sends them off on a new mission to finally kill it. Thus, the sequel runs for almost 3 hours. The need to resolve every subplot creates a gnawing sense of impatience, making the movie unnecessarily long and convoluted, which results in pacing issues. The general feeling seems to be that It Chapter 2 may have tried to do too much, yet it felt frustratingly thin as it lumbers towards the final showdown. Number 4. Excessive CGI. Not only has It Chapter 2 an excessive running time, the use of computer-generated images seems over the top too, as some critics see it.
The fuck is that?
Filming of the sequel started 2 years after the cast, especially the younger ones, had shot the first installment. Naturally, physical changes among the young cast are inevitable, so age-defying CGI is used in the countless flashback scenes in It Chapter 2 to make them appear exactly as they are in the first movie. However, some critics find it distracting and unnecessary. When it comes to the titular character It, critics believe that it doesn't help that Chapter 2 relies heavily on dodgy CGI rather than the clown's raw portrayal that scared the hell out of viewers in Chapter 1. Pennywise's form in It is hardly present in the sequel, and audiences clearly can't get enough of the monster, but it spends too much time on CGI-created disguises that aren't scary and never feel like they can realistically exist. Thus, Pennywise, the self-proclaimed eater of worlds, never appears to be a real threat and is no more intimidating than Ronald McDonald. Number 3. Weak chemistry among adult cast members. It Chapter 2 has a talented ensemble cast playing the adult versions of the Losers Club members. Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ransone, Andy Bean, and Bill Skarsgård provide the sequel's star power. Some critics praise them, especially Hader and Skarsgård, as effective in their own ways, but they never quite resonate collectively like their teen counterparts because of their lack of chemistry. Chapter 1 is so successful because the teenage losers' deep love for each other is palpable in hurdling their obstacles as a foundation to overcoming Pennywise. However, this can't be said of the sequel's adult cast, which has become Chapter 2's weakness for some critics. There's supposed to be an awkward friendship reborn among them after 27 years, and while it's easy to believe in that friendship during all the teen flashbacks seen throughout the film, it never fully comes to fruition when they're adults. Except for Hader and Mustafa, the rest of the ensemble doesn't fully suggest that they love each other enough to defeat a centuries-old monster. Number 2. Unbalanced structure due to many flashback scenes. Since Chapter 1 fleshes out the childhood horrors of the Losers Club members, It Chapter 2 is expected to focus on the characters' adult versions 27 years later.
I propose a toast to the losers.
The trouble is, the sequel still needs to revisit the past frequently, and thus doesn't let the second half of the story stand strongly on its own according to CinemaBlend. And because of that, the sequel ends up a bit uneven, and many of its 165 minutes are spent weaving connections between the past and present to make viewers care about who these kids have grown up to be. Yet the sequel lacks the cohesive characterizations or strong emotional connections. There's nothing wrong with using flashbacks to reintroduce the Losers Club members to their past exploits, but there are so many new flashes of Derry childhood when in fact the entirety of Chapter 1 centers on the adolescent experiences. In the end, the sequel simply doesn't give the characters enough time to really resonate, largely because so much of the movie still delves on the younger versions. Number 1, not as scary as the original. While It lived up to the expectations of the horror genre, Chapter 2 is deemed not as scary as its predecessor. Well, that's according to many critics who have different takes on this flaw of It Chapter 2. In the first movie, Bill Skarsgård's version of Pennywise is absolutely terrifying, and there are a number of memorable scares such as the death scene of Bill's 7-year-old brother George in the hands of Pennywise, Ben's slideshow incident when Pennywise comes to life, and the entire sequence in the house on Neibolt Street. It has more to offer than just horror, but it nonetheless succeeds in sufficiently scaring viewers. While the sequel takes all the risks of a modern horror film, it lacks an overarching scare factor. There are a few small jump scares, but most of the Pennywise-driven scenes lose the power of terror seen in Chapter 1. Pennywise can become anything from a human-headed spider to an enormous roadside Paul Bunyan, and they're all figments of the protagonist's imaginations anyway, so the fear becomes unreal. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video with your friends and subscribe to our channel for your daily dose of voodoo videos.